government wanting to sell some of our housing stock to community groups like the Salvation Army, but there hasn't been a hell of a lot of interest from them. Horizon Group, I think it's called, in Australia, they're interested in buying some of our state houses. Should that happen? Sarah Dowry, Invercargill MP National, why this should happen?
Well, look, it's not about selling state houses.
Yes,
it's about doing things better.
It is about selling state houses.
It's about doing things better. And in my electorate, we've been chosen as one of the pilots. And this is about taking local people with local challenges and dealing with them with local providers.
It's about doing things better. How would it be better? How would it be better if I have the interest from overseas, the profits going overseas to Australia?
Well, it doesn't matter who takes over the running of the houses as long as they're doing it better and they're held to account. And if you look at Invercargill, the people of Invercargill, some of those people in state houses have some really challenging issues. So this is about wrapping services around them and helping them achieve their hopes and dreams and moving them on to independence.
Achieving their hopes and dreams. Carmen Sepuloni, what do you hear when you... What's wrong with other people owning the state houses?
Yeah, I think it was just a ridiculous comment to say it's not about selling state houses, because it's about selling state houses.
Well, it's about community providers providing a better standard of living for these people.
But it's about Australian community providers owning our houses.
About Habitat for Humanity.
So anyway, we have a real
here.
issue here, because this is something that New Zealanders are very proud of, that we've had the state housing stock for over 80 years. We've done a good job. If we're not doing a good job now, it's the national government's fault that it's not being maintained to the standard that it should be.
The housing stock has been run down over years, including the Labor government.
So whoever is in government needs to take responsibility for that. But selling it off is not going to fix that. Yeah.
Peter Dunn, what do you think?
Well, I think, first of all we've got is an expression of interest from the Australians. There's no deal, as far as I'm aware, on the table. We've got a number of other potential buyers in the market. The key thing about...
What we're hearing, and John Armstrong mentioned this in the paper, that it's almost ideological.
Well, I don't think
the Bill English doesn't want to get rid of this, does he?
I don't think it's ideological. For me, the proposition's a very simple one. The government needs to reinvest a significant amount of money in providing good quality state housing.
So why don't they do that?
Just hang on, it's got a lot of state houses at the moment that are old, need to be repaired, or in the wrong place. So get those to social providers, use the capital then to develop new ones. It's a very simple proposition. Now, if the Australian company want to go through with it and a deal can be concluded, you can't pack the houses up and take them to Brisbane. They still remain in New Zealand, still housing New Zealanders. I think it's a sensible outcome.
What do you make of what Peter Dunn said, Gareth?
Well, I think if Peter Dunn's going to support this, maybe we should send Peter Dunn to Australia.
Well, if it meant being away from you, it's not a bad idea.
Right. But the fact is, successive governments have run it down, but we shouldn't be selling off more than 80 to 100 years of Kiwi heritage offshore, and all these guys are going to do is take the profits out of New Zealand.
Imagine this. Imagine if Horizon Housing, who are experts in housing, they maintain well, they insulate their homes. What is wrong with that? What really is wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with that, but why on earth can't a government get its act together and do exactly the same job?
Answer this question. A government says we have stock we don't need because it's old, it's run down. We will sell that to someone who will buy it. We will use the capital to reinvest in new housing for people who need it. What's wrong with that?
But they say that we don't need to have
that. What's wrong with that? Because what you're saying is this stuff should never be touched. It should stay always run down and in ghetto-type locations.
Peter, I'll go to Damien, I'll come back to you both. Damien Christie.
Well, unlike many of our state houses, this young man is well insulated, and I just wanted to find out what you thought. You've been listening intently. Are you allowed to talk about this issue?
Not technically, no.
Not technically? Awesome, I love that. Let's get around that technicality then. What do you think? Do you think we should sell our state houses to an Australian firm?
No, definitely not.
You think we should keep them in New Zealand ownership?
Yes, yeah, definitely.
Reasons?
Well, it's our people, it's New Zealanders. New Zealand government should be looking after them. Simple as that.
But if the Australians, it turns out that they can look after us better than our own government, that wouldn't be a bad thing?
Or maybe a sign the government needs to do something about what they're doing.
All right, what about you, sir?
I think that they should give it to whoever would manage it best, whether that's an Australian or a New Zealander.
Okay, fair enough. So just look at the bottom line, look at who's going to do the job best. Doesn't matter where it goes.
Absolutely, as long as it's benefiting the people, why not?
Thank you very much.
Very good. What about, let's get back to you, Sarah. The Social Housing Reform Bill tabled today gives ministers direct personal control and can leave the sale process open to corruption, can it not?
No, not at all. It's got to go through the minister, and there'll be contracts that will hold those providers to account. So look, I come back to the same point. It's about doing things better. These people that are in state houses that are not fit for purpose have challenging situations to deal with. And this is about getting local providers with those wraparound services to help those people achieve their hopes and dreams. What's wrong with that?
Okay, Carmel, if you were in power, what would you do?
Not sell the state houses, build 100,000 houses over 10 years, because we have a real problem in Auckland and the government haven't been addressing it. Sarah Dowie is laughing. How are we going to do that? We're going to do that, Sarah.
And your nails,
it's
and
better than the
herself.
national government showing sites to journalists where you couldn't possibly build houses, and yet they're taking them around on this tour saying we're going to build houses in cemeteries,
Carmel,
we're going to build them in all of these
really that simple?
places.
I mean, 100,000 houses, it's not the 40s anymore. It's the 21st century. There are rules, regulations, boarding plans, 100,000 houses.
I guess that's the difference.
You can't do that anymore.
That's the difference between National and Labour. We're committed to resolving the problem that we have with housing. They're not. That's the issue.
So tell me, Carmel, how does Labour finance building 100,000 houses?
How do we finance it, Ian?
They write a cheque.
I rest my case. No idea what the social housing strategy is about, and I think there are some wrinkles still to be ironed out, but the principle's sound. You free up capital by getting rid of surplus stock. You then reinvest that in the new buildings that you need. Far more constructive than Labour saying we're going to build 100,000 houses. Don't know how we're going to pay for them, but we're going to build them somehow.
But can I just go back to what Peter Dunn said earlier? He said you sell off the old stock. 31 houses were sold because of the Waterview Connection project, where you live, Wallace. Now, they were sold to the project. The project didn't need them. They should have gone back to Housing New Zealand, but instead they were sold to private investors. It's not that there wasn't a need there, because there's hundreds of families on the priority A list there waiting for Housing New Zealand houses. But they weren't sold to social housing providers. They were sold to private investors.
That's terrible, isn't it?
Final thoughts, Gareth.
Well, I believe the right to affordable and safe housing is a human right in New Zealand, and I think after 7 years, it's irresponsible for this lot to be blaming the last government. The fact is, for 7 years, we've seen a housing crisis emerge. People are dying in state houses.